Let's
Agree.
just roll with that then. Awesome. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today for the Asia Pacific daily wrap up. I know that this is still kind of midday for some of you in Australia or maybe further south in Asia as well. So don't consider this the end of the day. This is just a really nice way for all of us to check in and have a wee chat about what we're doing, what's happened, what's going well, and maybe potentially ask others who are going to be joining in the European and American time zones for a little bit of help and input as well, if that is what's needed. What I will do is try and share some slides, which always scares me just a little bit. Cool, so hopefully everyone can see this, and I've already put that onto the wrong day, so this is a terrible start. There we are, progress updates. Um, so here we are, progress updates, and what I'm going to do straight away is pass this over to Jen, who might talk about some of the updates that they've got happening over there in New Zealand.
So we've been trying to dive right in and having mixed success probably. A solid portion of us are associated in some way or another with real-time genomics, so we figured we would touch some of the real-time genomics tools that already existed in NF Core modules, as well as look at creating new ones for useful tools in that set. A lot of that has been trying to figure out how to improve the functionality of some of the existing modules. So we split that up a bit, and then also Ilya got started on trying to set up a new module for another useful RTG tool. I think one thing that we ran into, and I will maybe try to put this in the hackathon Slack so that people can comment on it over our evening, is that, well, we got through a lot of the day thinking about parameterizing some of the arguments and then realized that there was maybe a very strong argument that had been made in a Slack thread from about a month ago about how to not do that. So we kind of needed to, we really figured that out pretty late in the day. So we're kind of reassessing where we're at, and I want to ask some questions in the Slack for moving forward. And then yeah, we had an interesting time with some of our input files and just getting things up and working. So getting people to be able to run tests on things and whatnot was a solid portion of our effort. And then I think Dan's got the next two slides.
Cool. Cool, Dan.
Yeah,
Hello. Yeah, my video isn't working, but I am here. I hope I'm not getting double sounds then. I've mostly been trying to kind of facilitate and organize, but I've tried to do a little bit of stuff in my area of expertise, which is not Nextflow. I'm learning, my Nextflow knowledge is 3 years old, and I'm learning along with everybody else, but I know about terrible file formats and the types of errors that tend to happen. I've had a quick look at a issue relating to GFF read, and so far all I've got to is actually replicating the error because there was some resource requirements I needed to adjust. And this is my normal whinge about how bioinformatic file formats are treated sometimes as interesting suggestions that we may or may not adhere to. And it can be a bit of a pain. Next slide. Yeah, the other thing that I was doing very briefly was I just noticed some warnings because I went through basically every NF Core approved pipeline and ran them sort of the test setting and to see if they actually run and whether they had warnings. And I've got a set of things that didn't work, pipelines that didn't run, or pipelines that need updated. And this was one that I looked at where we can just remove a config line. Mostly I was doing that to understand the process of, what are the conventions around contributing and providing an example for that. Then Alexei, who I met half an hour ago on Slack. This is very hackathon, who I'm not sure where you are in the world, Alexei, but he's kind of suggested some more improvements. Thank you very much for that. So randoms popping in and helping, that's exactly what we should be doing. This is great. And that's what I've been doing today.
Cool, fantastic. Really great to hear that others have just been jumping in. Alexei, it's dead right that these are a great opportunity just to kind of, learn from each other. So I'm really glad to hear that. It's one of the, I always learn a lot in the hackathons as well. So that's great to hear.
but I didn't. I wanted to say about my part too, with the last improvements with NFCore CLI tool.
Mhm.
I can put on camera too.
Yep.
And I work at the State Research Hub for Allergy and Biotechnology, and we use a lot that pipeline. And it is the last major update was several years ago, and in some parts it hugely outdated. For example, some NF core CLI commons don't work with that, and moreover, some data sets, for example, Nextclade is outdated too, and it needs to be set in the parameters that path to current state data set of Nextclade to be more precise when you're working with SARS-CoV-2, for example, because standard data set isn't working with Omicron, for example. And I think it is I improve that parts in for our local use in our center, and I saw what hackathon is going right now, and I think it is a good idea to use my improvements for the original pipeline.
Mhm. Cool. Well, that's I'm sure the developers. This is an open source project, and all this stuff is open and available. So what I would suggest here as well is just to make sure that you sort of leave a little um, comment in the Slack channel, and hopefully some of the NF Core sort of maintainers who are like really in the thick of this stuff, as well as potentially some of the NF Core infrastructure team can see this, potentially comment on it as well, and that will help with like the asynchronous of this because a lot of those sort of developers are based over in Europe, and hopefully there'll be a little bit of overlap, and you guys can chat about that over the next couple of days as well.
Can I quickly say something?
Yeah,
So yeah,
please.
I have no background in viral recon and I had nothing to do with the viral recon out team. I just kind of grabbed an issue and then found that I'd grabbed an issue from someone who is literally on the other side of the world, precisely on the other side of the world. So I'd very much contact the viral recon team and I have had a bit of contact with them and they're super keen to collaborate and I think they'd really appreciate your input, Alexi. So, and they're in the same time zone as you, more or less. So that will be great.
Cool. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's exactly what these meetings are for as well. Just kind of like air stuff like this. And yeah, hopefully you guys can link up a little bit more. And I hope to hear more about that or the success of linking up tomorrow. Cool. The next slide here is for Fred. Do you want to jump in and have a chat about the HPC training in Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. Audio, all good?
Yeah, all good.
Fantastic. So some context, late last year, Chris, myself, a few people here in the Australian Biocommons delivered an adapted version of Hello Nextflow training. And that was an introduction to Nextflow, how to use it, and just the key concepts. The idea of Nextflow for HPC training is sort of a continuation of an introductory workshop where you want to scale up to hundreds to thousands of samples. And this is designed to be run on Australia's national HPCs. One of them is PAWSY, the other one is NCI. So today we're joined by several people. We're joined by the trainers that will be delivering this workshop for late this year. We've got people from the national HPCs as well as Nextflow users who use HPCs. So we've been discussing things such as, so we've had an open discussion about best practices, things we found difficult running Nextflow on the HPC. And we've tried to condense that into what are the key learning objectives for this workshop and how we should deliver it across the two HPC infrastructures. And a key part of the discussion has been identifying the HPC specific queues that should be used for workflows. So we'll continue with the discussion and try to identify the best practices that we can serve up on a nice silver platter for the attendees of this workshop.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm sure Geraldine and a few of the other trainers who have done a lot of this stuff recently as well. We're really happy to hear that there are new resources being developed and that it's going to be specific to your infrastructure as well, which is always fantastic to see. Cool. NF-core protein fold. Josh, would you like to take this one?
You want to take it on?
Or anyone else?
People, sorry, I'm not usurping. We just put people in order that we're sitting around the table at the moment. We're kind of so basically we've got a whole bunch of people interested in working on the protein fold pipeline, open some issues that users have started with. However, this requires a multi-terabyte database and a whole bunch of setup. So at the moment, considering we started midday, we've been setting up the databases on the cluster that Florian has given us access to, so people can try it on that cluster rather than that home laptop, just because it won't work that way. And Josh has been doing some work to simplify Helix Fold 3, which was a competitive release to AlphaFold 3. So users need to do less config when they work with the pipeline that way.
Cool. Yeah, fantastic. Data is always an issue. So I know the pain is setting some of this stuff up, but it sounds like you're making some really good progress. And it's nice you've got some resources there to sort of play around with as well. So that's really great to hear.
Make my life much easier.
Cool. Is that the last slide? Sometimes these things don't refresh properly. So I'm just going to try and... Nope, that looks like all of them. So that's it. That was the end of the check-in. I think those are really great. There's been really great progress today. So I think everyone should be really proud of what's been achieved so far. It was really cool to have so many of you here from Australia and New Zealand. This is the first time we've had sites in Australia and New Zealand. And it's really cool to actually see the community starting to develop and hearing what you're working on and things like this. We will be back again tomorrow with another wrap up around the same time. I'll be here again. I'm not sure if Geraldine will jump in as well. But if you are sort of blocking off tonight, do make sure that if you want to add sort of comments and Slack and those sort of core channels, if you have questions, if you're trying to get some attention about anything, do just pop some comments in there. People are pretty good about sort of commenting and sort of building on these conversations. So I do really encourage that. But apart from that, thank you all for joining. If you're still hacking for a little bit longer, enjoy the rest of your days. And I will see you all tomorrow.